Imagine a world where, for the very first time ever, the whole idea of a battlefield just changed. No longer just soldiers fighting soldiers far away. Suddenly, civilian homes, the home front, became a target. This was the pretty chilling reality that kicked off with the First World War. And today, we're doing a deep dive into the technology that made it possible. The giant Zeppelin airship.
That's right. And our sources, well, they show how these massive machines, first thought of for, transport, even luxury travel, they very quickly turned into weapons. They didn't just fight in the war, they basically changed the rules, starting this whole new era of bombing from the air. So we'll get into their design, their pretty dramatic impact during the war, how people fought back against them, and maybe surprisingly, their legacy. It stretched way beyond the war, actually.
Yeah, so our mission here is to understand not just what these huge things were, but why they caused such fear, and how they pushed innovation like really fast, and maybe how their story connects to how we see new, maybe scary technologies even now.
Yeah.
So let's get into this aerial giant.
Okay, so when we talk Zeppelins, we really have to start with Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin in Germany. He was obsessed, really, a visionary. He set up his company, Luftschiffbau Zeppelin, in Friedrichshafen to build these things.
And it's quite a vision, a rigid airship. That was like totally new back then, wasn't it? What made that design so different from, say, earlier balloons?
Yeah, it was groundbreaking. See, earlier balloons were basically just bags. They'd lose shape. Zeppelins had lots of separate gas bags or cells inside a strong, rigid frame, usually made of duralumin, that's a light, but a really strong aluminum alloy. Then they stretched fabric, cotton or later silk, over this whole skeleton. Gondolas hung underneath for the crew and engines, and they had water tanks for ballast, to control height. It was quite an engineering feat for the early 1900s, gave it that classic cigar shape and strength.
And it worked. The first one, LZ-1, flew July 2nd, 1900, from Friedrichshafen, proved the concept, and it took off. I mean, the name Zeppelin just became the word for any big airship, right? The Count was also involved with DLAG, the German Airship Travel Corporation, from 1909. But was he the only one doing this, or did others jump in pretty quickly? Oh, others definitely jumped in. Zeppelin was the big name, sure, but there was also Luftschiffbau Schütterlands. They had their own ideas, like a more streamlined shape, a stronger hull, using a double frame. These early ones got pretty big, 140, 150 meters long. But they weren't perfect, far from it. Fragile structures, terrible in high winds, and of course the hydrogen gas. Super flammable, lots of accidents, setbacks. But they kept at it, and eventually they were viable for transport and, well, for war. And that's a big pivot, isn't it? World War I starts, and these things, symbols of progress, become weapons. Germany used them everywhere. France, Belgium, Britain, Russia, Romania.
Yeah, initially they did a lot of different things. Reconnaissance was huge, over 1,000 missions spotting enemy troops, guiding forces. But the German high command, they saw the real potential was bombing, long-range bombing, a way to hit the enemy deep inside their own territory, bypass the front lines.
And the bombing started almost right away. August 25th, 1914, L3 bombs Antwerp. Just the beginning. But January 19th, 20th, 1915, that same L3 hits Norfolk towns in Britain. That was different. It wasn't just a raid. It shattered this idea that war happens over there. Those first 4 civilian deaths from the air. That was a huge psychological shock. It brought the war home. That's really the start of the home front as we think of it. And L3, just to give you an idea, was nearly 160 meters long. Big machine for its time. Powerful engines, good range, a real weapon.
And they came up with some clever, if kind of terrifying tech. The Spakorb, the subcloud car. Picture this. A small, sort of bomb-shaped pod, lowered down on a steel cable, maybe 750 meters long. Just one guy inside, dangling below the clouds, using a telephone to tell the Zeppelin crew above where to go. The airship itself could stay hidden in the clouds. And here's a weird detail from the records, apparently. That was the only place the crew were allowed to smoke.
Wow. Imagine being that guy. So exposed. But crucial. And these raids weren't just one-offs. Paris got hit, 30 times? London's first raid was LZ-38, May 31st, 1915. Hit docks, train stations. And they went deep into Britain, London, the Midlands, Yorkshire, Tyneside, even up to Scotland.
Yeah, the scale really ramped up. They started sending big groups. Like September 1916, there were raids on London with 16 Zeppelins, then another with 12 later that month. Sometimes they'd hit multiple cities on the same night. September 7th, they hit London, Norwich, and Middlesbrough.
We actually have an account from the captain of LZ-74. For that September 7th raid. It really puts you there. He says they left at 7:27 p.m., crossed the coast north of the Thames. He noted only a few pale lights were visible, pale glow in the direction of London, altitude of about 3,200 meters. All the suburbs were completely blacked out. Talks about docking searchlights, how dust over London made them weaker, but still more than 10 large lights were trying to pinpoint the airship. After dropping bombs, he just says large fires were visible from the sky. Gives you a real sense of that dark, chaotic scene below.
And the Zeppelins themselves carried weapons for defense, usually a couple of machine guns up top. Later on, you get the Super Zeppelins. They could fly higher, carry more bombs. Like, a typical load might be 2 big 100-kilogram explosives, 2 50-kilogram ones, and maybe 90 incendiaries to start fires. All told, over the war, 208 raids on Britain, almost 6,000 bombs dropped. Tragically, 528 civilians killed, over 1,100 injured.
So this new threat, literally hanging over people's heads, how did the Allies fight back? What could they even do?
Well, the first attempts were pretty basic. Searchlights to spot them, anti-aircraft guns, AA guns to shoot at them, and barrage balloons, just big balloons tethered with cables, hoping a Zeppelin might run into one. There's also this wild idea trying to strap fighter planes, like a Sopwith Camel for the Brits or an Albatross for the Germans, underneath an airship. The idea was to release the fighter high up near the Zeppelins, but it was deeply flawed. The pilot had to sit in the plane the whole time, engine running, not practical at all.
Right. So the killer blow, the thing that really worked, wasn't some complicated scheme. It was actually simpler, wasn't it? It's about the ammunition for the aircraft machine guns.
Exactly. That was the game changer. They developed rounds that mixed explosive and incendiary bullets. The explosive rounds ripped holes in the fabric, let the hydrogen out, and the incendiary rounds ignited it. Boom.
Devastating. And the first success of that.
That was LZ-37, June 7th, 1915. Shot down by a British pilot, Lieutenant R.A.J. Warnford. He got the Victoria Cross for it. Huge deal. Another tactic was just hitting them on the ground, bombing the sheds where they were kept, even in occupied territory. Like Dusseldorf, October 1914. That was even before they'd bombed Britain.
And sometimes the Zeppelins didn't crash completely. They just came down damaged.
Yeah.
And the Allies could capture them.
Precisely. That happened about 7 times, gave the Allies a huge intelligence boost. L-33 came down in Essex in 16, L-49 in France in 17, both pretty much intact, so that Allies could study them, copy designs. They even reused parts. The British R-9 airship actually used an engine taken from that captured L-33. Talk about recycling.
So that vulnerability plus the better defenses led to this kind of race, right? Trying to fly higher.
Yeah, the altitude race. Zeppelin designers pushed hard. By 1917, the L-43 could get up to 5,500 meters. That's like 18,000 feet. By 1918, some could supposedly reach nearly 7,000 meters, 23,000 feet, trying to stay above the planes and the guns.
Incredible heights. But did it work?
Well, ironically, that L-43, it got shot down flying at only 460 meters, about 1,500 feet. So despite the altitude, despite the amazing range they achieved, 12,000 kilometers by 1918, they were just becoming obsolete as weapons. Airplanes were developing so fast. Out of 117 Zeppelins used in the war, 39 were shot down. But 42, almost as many, were lost just to accidents. Weather, landings, very dangerous machines to operate.
It's amazing how the actual strategic impact seems so different from the fear they caused. You mentioned historian A. Bruce saying the raids had a very limited effect on war production, even morale. They didn't really achieve that goal of terrorizing the enemy into submission.
No, not really. But both sides totally used them for propaganda. The German Airship League printed tons of postcards celebrating raids, showing off German power. It was all about boosting morale back home, making it look like they were winning, even if the raids weren't strategically decisive.
And on the British side, how did the government handle this fear, this home front threat?
Oh, they were clever. They didn't just react. They used the fear, turned it into a tool. Well, historian G. Design talks about Zeppelinitis hysteria. He argues it kind of masked failures on both sides while playing up small successes. So while Germany bragged about bombing, Allied newsreels and posters would celebrate every downed Zeppelin like a major victory. You'd see posters basically saying, enlist now or risk getting bombed at home. They used the threat to civilians to drive recruitment, build national unity. They even sold little pins and cufflinks made from bits of salvaged Zeppelin wreckage to raise money for the Red Cross, turning debris into patriotic symbols.
Wow, turning fear into fundraising. So, okay, their war role fades out. But the story doesn't end there. After the war, 9 Zeppelins go to the Allies as reparations. And then they pivot again from war machines to luxury liners.
It's an amazing shift. And even during the war, you saw glimpses of their incredible potential. Take the flight of L-59. It flew from Bulgaria, aiming for German troops besieged in East Africa. The plan wasn't just supplies. It was that the troops would dismantle the airship, use the engines for power, the outer skin for tents, the inner lining for clothes. Total reuse.
That's incredible planning. Did it make it?
No, it got recalled when they heard the troops had been defeated. But it flew for 95 hours straight, covered over 4,200 miles roughly, Friedrichshafen to Chicago distance. That single flight showed the world what was possible for long-distance air travel, a real sign of the future.
And that future arrived in the 1920s, didn't it? The era of luxurious transatlantic Zeppelins.
Absolutely. All that wartime development paid off. You got these huge, opulent passenger airships. LZ-126 went to the U.S. Navy, became the Los Angeles ZR-3, and crucially, they filled it with helium, much safer than hydrogen. Back then, only the U.S. really had helium in large amounts.
And the peak of that era has to be the Graf Zeppelin LZ-127, right?
Yeah.
The round-the-world trip.
Oh, yeah. August 1929. Circumnavigated the globe. Huge machine, 105,000 cubic meters. It captured everyone's imagination, showed the potential for truly global travel.
A golden age, but one that ended so dramatically.
Tragically, yes. The Hindenburg disaster, May 1937. LZ-129, filled with hydrogen because of helium restrictions. It just burst into flames while landing in New Jersey. 37 people died. It was caught on film, broadcast everywhere, just seared into public memory. That, combined with the rise of faster, more efficient airplanes after World War II, pretty much ended the age of the passenger airship.
So we've gone from Zeppelins as these terrifying silent bombers, changing warfare, the symbols of luxury travel connecting continents, and then being replaced by the very airplanes whose development they arguably helped spur on.
It's a fascinating trajectory, isn't it? How a technology, even with its flaws, even with limited military success, still caused such huge ripples socially and technologically around the world. It really pushed boundaries, changed perceptions of distance and travel.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, our listener. Thinking about the Zeppelin from weapon to luxury liner to, well, museum piece. How do we judge failure in innovation? Are there technologies today that seem maybe outdated or that had a dramatic end like the Hindenburg that might still hold some hidden potential, some unforeseen future if we just look past their obvious limits or endpoints?
Definitely something to think about. History is full of those kinds of surprises hiding in plain sight.